Budweiser, the king of beers, presents USA's Tuesday Night Fights. Former heavyweight champion Larry Holmes takes on Everett Bigfoot Martin. In 1991, after 3 years off, buoyed by the George Foreman celebrated comeback, Larry Holmes, at the age of 40, decided to give it another go. Unlike Foreman, Holmes fought only a handful of easy tune-ups, and after just 5 fights, he deemed himself ready and took a gamble, facing undefeated contender Ray Mercer. Holmes, a 4-1 underdog, shocked Mercer. The grandfather beat a young lion to set up another world title bout. In June, Holmes was outpointed handily by Evander Holyfield, but he went the distance, seemingly going out in style. But it turned out not to be the swan song.
When I have enough is when I don't want to fight anymore. That's quite simple. But I have to be satisfied totally with myself. If I leave this game of boxing and I'm not satisfied, I'll be trying to make comebacks at 50, or I'll be in the gym with these kids, boxing these gym around at 50 years old. And I don't want to do that. I want to get all the fight out of me.
Larry Holmes says he plans to stay active until he gets another title shot. And with the crowd once again divided, Holmes thinks the chance will come, and he has a chance to win.
My chances are very good to win a title. The WBC side, which would be Lennox Lewis, I don't think he has the talent that Riddick Bowe has. And out of the 2 fighters, the one I would like to fight will be Lennox Lewis, because I think it will be much easier.
Tonight, Holmes has chosen to take on Everett Bigfoot Martin, a fighter who has made a career of going the distance with world champions and contenders. Not just your ordinary opponent, Bigfoot Martin has come up with some surprises along the way. The durable Martin has stepped in the ring with 8 world champions, and not without some memorable moments. He served up the first knockdown in the career of unbeaten Michael Moore, and has even come up a winner against former heavyweight champ Tim Witherspoon. And now he rolls the dice against Holmes.
They look at me as an opponent, but they look at me as a hard opponent to fight, because I ain't gonna lay down for them. And that give me a whole lot more confidence to go in there and fight hard as I can. Because one day, I will be on top, and they're afraid of that.
Holmes is aware he can't take Bigfoot for granted like Witherspoon. He knows in reaching for the stars, he's guided by the lower lights.
If Everett Bigfoot Martin beats me, it tells me something. Larry, you shouldn't be in this game anymore. I mean, you're losing it. You don't have it anymore. Everett Bigfoot Martin beating you, he's a trial horse. He's a guy that's been out there, but he don't win the big fights. So therefore, Larry, get out of the game before you get hurt.
Tonight's main event is brought to you by the letter Y. Why, at the age of 43, is Larry Holmes still fighting? Why, now that he says he's financially secure, is he still fighting? Why, after he finally got the world title fight and went the distance with Holyfield, is he fighting? And why, after it has been revealed that he has a surgically repaired detached retina, is Larry Holmes still fighting? Sean, why? Why? Tell me why.
I will if you let go of my collar. Actually, Al, he can feel it all closing in now. At 43 years old, now he sees that just over the horizon, he is going to be too old to be competitive with these younger fighters. Now that he feels it all closing in, he says, oh, maybe I can squeeze one more fight out of it. Maybe I can squeeze one more payday out of it. Maybe I can get back to the top again in boxing one more time before it's too old. What you don't want to do is get it too old and then look back and say, if I coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Well, I have one more why. I guess it's all not as easy as ABC, but I have one more why. Why is he fighting Bigfoot Martin, who we have seen in the past has been able to come up with somewhat of a surprise here and there?
Al, this one is much easier to answer. It is because he really believes that he can beat Everett Bigfoot Martin. Even though Everett Bigfoot Martin pulled off the surprise against Tim Witherspoon a few months back, still Larry Holmes thinks that he has what it takes to beat a Tim Witherspoon. In this fight, he cannot shy away at all. He must look impressive to make people believe that he still belongs in boxing.
And the Bigfoot Martin, who has made some fighters look bad. Hey, George Foreman on the comeback.
Exactly.
Why do you think Holmes feels he could look impressive against him?
Well, because Bigfoot Martin is a forward advancing type fighter. He's very slow and very deliberate. But what Larry Holmes is hoping to do is beat him with speed. Hopefully this will play into Bigfoot Martin's hands if Larry stays in there and bombs away with him. However, I hope, and the only way that Larry can look good and impressive is if he gets on his bicycle.
All right, let's check out these two fighters size-wise on the tail of the tape. Larry Holmes was at 233 for both Holyfield and Mercer, so he has put on 5 pounds. Bigfoot Martin, who once was a, believe it or not, super middleweight contender at 168 pounds. He has also at one point fought against Bone Crusher Smith at 249.5 pounds, and he is settled in now at 234. But Holmes has the height advantage and an incredible reach advantage, and he's going to try to get that jab going, and he wants to try to walk through Bigfoot Martin, starting with the jab. The rules here in Mississippi: standing 8 count in effect. 3 knockdown rule is in effect. You can be saved by the bell only in the final round, and the scoring on the 10-point must scoring system. Now let's check out this fight. Let's see how Sean sees it on the blackboard.
On the boxing blackboard, brought to you by Head & Shoulders, former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes. Don't force it tonight, Larry. Get up on your toes and box. Get that left jab working, then tell us how you've turned back the clock to beat your adversary tonight, Everett Bigfoot Martin. Something you do well, Everett: form boxing. Put your head and shoulders on Larry's chest and bomb away. Move forward. Don't back up. Keep his back to the ropes.
At the age of 43, Larry Holmes is still in the ring. Comes in with a record of 54-4. His lone defeats to Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, and twice to Michael Spinks after he had reeled off 48 straight wins, one shy of the all-time record set by Rocky Marciano. And Larry Holmes trying to fashion some speed right there in the direction of Everett Bigfoot Martin. We're ready for the introductions, so let's go to our ring announcer, Mark Biro.
Ladies and gentlemen, Casino Magic in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, in association with Big Wheel Promotions, presents main event, 10 rounds, heavyweights. Your referee from Biloxi, Mississippi, Chester Como. Judges at ringside from New Orleans, Louisiana, Elmo Adolph, Martin Casino, and from Biloxi, Mississippi, Fred Steinwinder. Here now are the principals. Introducing first, in the red corner to my right, wearing light blue trunks with blue trim and blue accessories. He weighs 234 pounds, from Houston, Texas. His professional record: 18 wins, 15 defeats, 1 draw. He has 8 knockouts. He is ranked number 22 by the prestigious Boxing Illustrated, Everett Bigfoot Martin. His opponent in the blue corner, wearing white trunks, red trim. He weighs 238 pounds. His professional record: 54 wins, 4 defeats. He has 37 knockouts. He hails from Easton, Pennsylvania. He is ranked number 11 in the world by the WBC. He is ranked number 7 in the world by Boxing Illustrated. Former heavyweight champion of the world, the Easton Assassin, Larry Holmes. 10 rounds, heavyweights.
Larry. Everett. Larry. Hey, Larry. Everett and Larry, I know both of you boys are familiar with the rules. I want a good, clean fight. I want you to touch hands now and come out of the box. Do you have any questions?
Holmes at 238 pounds, you know, compared to Foreman and guys like Dokes, that's not bad. But Larry just doesn't carry it that great. Maybe he's just getting a little shorter.
Well, part of trying to sell yourself as a heavyweight contender is looking, acting like a heavyweight contender. One part of doing that is getting that midsection off. A good fighter who's going to see that midsection will zero in on it. And let's face it, the bigger the target is, the easier it is to hit.
Bigfoot goes right at Larry Holmes.
Bonefoot.
To start with. Bone Crusher, one of the few fighters to ever put Bigfoot Martin down. He's been down just 3 times. Here, coaches Johnny Deploy and Bone Crusher Smith, who he says, along with Foreman, are the hardest punchers in the heavyweight division. Larry Holmes, as he has gotten older, is not as mobile. Reflexes have dulled. He's certainly slowed down. He thinks he's still one of the best fighters out there. He said he always wanted to be a fighter, not a puncher. Wanted to hit and not get hit. And now in the later stages of his career, and this comeback, his second or actually the third, he doesn't move as much. And he says in this fight he's not going to move. He's going to strike out with a jab, try to walk through Bigfoot Martin, try to score with uppercuts. And I think he has found his experience has taken him into these later years. And there's just so much more he can get away with his knowledge of the game.
You know, Al, I was talking earlier about the big target that a good fighter would zero in on.
There's that uppercut.
Already good uppercut. I'll tell you, Bigfoot is stunned. He is staggered here in this first round.
Larry Holmes blasting away. It was that uppercut that snuck in. And Bigfoot Martin right now on top of Holmes in his chest. He knows he's got to get inside, and that's where the uppercut comes in for Holmes. Holmes has that 81-inch reach. And just measuring Martin, keeping him at bay. And already has warned Martin, if you come in, I've got the uppercut.
And what a big feather in his cap this would be if he were able to knock out Everett Bigfoot Martin early. Martin trying to go downstairs to that body, that'll take that power away from your opponent. If you can hit that tub, it'll also slow him down.
Bigfoot Martin. Yep. Bigfoot Martin is boxing's opponent du jour. He lost 9 in a row before he beat Tim Witherspoon. In his last fight a couple of months ago, went the 10-round distance against Tony Tucker. He's faced 8 world champions. Bert Cooper, Dwight Cowie, Foreman, Bone Crusher, Michael Moore, Riddick Bowe, Tim Witherspoon, Tony Tucker. The Bowe fight, if that's any kind of a measuring stick for Holmes, Bowe stopped Martin in 5 rounds. We'll pause for this word from your local cable systems. It's boxing in Biloxi right now on USA's Tuesday Night Fight. And in the ring for the main event, Larry Holmes having a very good 3 minutes against Everett Bigfoot Martin. Bigfoot cannot get inside on Holmes. Holmes showing even some quickness here in the first couple of rounds. The jab really flicking out.
Well, he has always had one of the best jabs in boxing. But when he came back, he lost his jab, and he wanted to have the big power towards Foreman. He wanted to stand in there and be able to bomb those fighters out. Now, he has got terrific power, but it usually comes late in the fight, and he's usually able to set that power up. It's snap power, much like James Bone Crusher Smith.
You know, Eddie Futch, the veteran and legendary trainer, now, of course, in the corner of world champion Riddick Bowe. Futch on Larry Holmes said in his prime he was similar in a way to Muhammad Ali, both with the good jab and the good right hand. And he said Holmes actually hit harder with the jab than Ali. Ali's jab kept you off balance, but Holmes's jab was a real punch, and he felt Holmes had a little more power with the right hand.
And I used to sit and watch Larry Holmes fight, and I'd try to emulate his left jab because I thought it was so perfect. He would step in with it, he would shift his weight, he'd bring all of it off the back foot, and just power drive his opponents home with it. Between rounds, Willie Savannah in the corner of Everett Martin told Martin to put his chest, put his head on the chest of Larry Holmes and pound away at the body. He said, once you get inside, punch in there.
But he can't get inside.
Now it's a question of whether Holmes can keep that jab going and keep Everett Martin away for 10 rounds. He knows he's in against a very durable fighter in Everett Martin who can stay in there. And I think Holmes feels it's the uppercut that might be able to take Martin out.
Absolutely. He told me in this fight he was going to work the uppercuts more and more to the body. He's done those uppercuts well in that first round. In fact, that is what has kept Everett Martin from rushing in. Remember the opening round, he tried to go downstairs to the body. He ate a couple of those uppercuts, and now he's staying back more. Oh, what a weapon that uppercut is. If you throw it too long, you hit your opponent in the middle of the belly, right in the solar plexus. That hurts. You hit not quite long enough, you hit him in the Adam's apple or in the point of the chin or up under the nose. If you miss him altogether, you slice him with your elbow. Oh, what a brutal weapon that uppercut is.
Martin not known for his power.
Oh, good right hand by Martin. Just as you say that.
Yeah, but as Michael Moore found out, you can't be careless against Everett Martin. And as Tim Witherspoon found out, you can't come in unprepared against him. There is a certain danger against Bigfoot Martin.
Oh, he's been around this fight game for a long time. He knows how to fight. He just will.
Tonight we're in the Mississippi Coast Coliseum, and Larry Holmes flashing the jab, although he took a good shot from Everett Martin to end the last round. We're now moving on to round number 3 of the scheduled 10-rounder. Larry Holmes, 7 years he reigned as the heavyweight champion of the world from 1978 to 1985. 20 defenses, 15 knockouts. Only Joe Louis reigned longer than Larry Holmes. Louis reigned for 12 years. And Holmes took them all on while he was a champion. Beat 6 former and future world champs: Muhammad Ali, Mike Weaver, Trevor Berbick, Leon Spinks, Bone Crusher Smith, Tim Witherspoon. And took his 48-0 record into the 2 controversial fights, 2 losses to Michael Spinks. And he laid out for a couple of years before facing Mike Tyson and was taken out in 4. Holmes truly believes that he could beat anybody in the game right now, but that Tyson's the only man that he just could not beat.
Even though in that Tyson fight, he says, I was coming off a 16-month layoff. He said, I'd lost my last 2 fights, and he said Tyson caught him at the right time. No talk of a rematch.
Yeah, but he even says now that that's one guy he knows he can't beat. But he
thought he beat Michael Spinks both times. He still does not think he lost.
Well, I think there are a lot of people who agree with him there. But he wants, right now, he's saying, hey, I'll take my experience into fights with guys like Michael Moore, Tommy Morrison, Alex Garcia, Riddick Bowe. He thinks if Bowe would be fighting the outside game, the jabbing, the moving, that Bowe would give him a problem. As he said before, he thinks he would have a better chance against Lennox Lewis. Hey, you're seeing guys now like Lennox Lewis, 25 fights, and he's a world champion. He's certainly not a complete fighter at this point. And Holmes would certainly, for the right amount of money, test that completeness.
He would fight anybody for the right amount of money. But with the fight, with the championship splitting off, with Bowe, Lennox Lewis, now as the champion, the WBC champion, now that gives more opportunities for fighters like Larry Holmes. And you know something? Larry is competitive with all of these top 10 fighters. He's been around the game a long time. He knows how to fight.
And actually, a fight against Lennox Lewis makes sense. You have that fight in London. Holmes knows he can make money. He becomes somewhat of a marquee value to Lewis if the fight's in London as a former heavyweight champion. He has sent a letter to Lewis, but so far there has been no positive reply. Now it is Everett Martin getting in close, and Holmes will slug it out. 10 seconds to go in the 3rd.
The uppercuts made Everett Martin move back. He doesn't not know how to do that, but when you get hit, you learn quickly.
4th round action. Larry Holmes scoring big in the first 3 rounds, but it looked like a very tired Larry Holmes sitting in the corner after just 9 minutes.
Very tired, and there's why. The pressure is coming from Everett. Larry is very busy. He's been busy throughout this fight, but also going downstairs is Martin. Hitting that body. These A fighter can shake out the head shots. He shakes the cobwebs out of his head. He does not shake off those body punches. They accumulate.
Larry Holmes says at the age of 43, he still has the desire to fight on. Says it keeps me going, it keeps me in condition. Well, that's debatable. But he just doesn't want to give it up. He is right now at the position where he wants to be in the ring. And Sean, I think you were at that crossroads. At that point, you were 24 years old, not 43.
Exactly. But
you
my greatest fear in turning professional as a professional boxer is having to come back time and time again, similar to Larry, what Larry is doing. I don't think it's right. However, he's got a lot of good points. He says there's not the contenders today. They don't fight like they used to. He says the fighters today are not as good as they used to. They're not as good as I was back when I was fighting in the 70s. But time has gone on. We all, Al, remember ourselves at our very best. Boxing has gone on without Sean O'Grady. And it has gone on without Larry Holmes.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it has struggled going on without Sean O'Grady, but it has.
Well, has it gone on? Really? Come on, Al. Can you tell me
what does that say about the boxers of today? When Larry Holmes and George Foreman can still be fighting. Holmes, Foreman after being out for 10 years.
Sure. However, there's an asterisk with that, Al. They have both been very selective about their opponents. This man in Everett Bigfoot Martin is going to stay on the inside where Larry can hit him.
Both selective, but they both went the distance with the young world champion.
Where Larry will look old is when he's in there against a young, speedy fighter.
And he won't fight those fights.
No. You have to be matched with the right kind of opposition.
Larry Holmes in his 7-year reign was really never accepted, never adored by the fan. You see George Foreman, who's now embraced. Larry Holmes saw that. And in his last 2 fights against Mercer and Holyfield, for the first time, Holmes heard the chants of Larry. It was the first time ever he heard the fans behind him. The admiration for Larry Holmes. And you know what? I think that's why he doesn't want to leave.
Yes.
He waited so long to hear the crowd cheering for him. So he's not ready to get out.
That is what you come back for. That is a great feeling to hear that crowd supporting you, behind you, saying your name. That's why fighters come back.
Welcome back to Biloxi, Mississippi. It's boxing in Biloxi tonight on Tuesday Night Fights. Round number 5, former heavyweight champ Larry Holmes in the 59th fight in his professional career, going up against Everett Bigfoot Martin. And yes, after 58 fights, he's still getting instructions in his corner. He hears tonight from Donald Turner.
Be patient. Be patient. You see what happened when you throw 3-4 punches at a time, you catch it. Every time you throw that that uppercut, throw a left hook behind it.
Good instruction. Nice, calm corner over there, trying to settle down Larry Holmes. He wants him to bring Everett Bigfoot Martin down to his level and then nail him with the right uppercut and the left hook.
Everett Martin won 13 of his first 14 pro fights. He was a world-rated, would you believe, super middleweight, 168 pounds. He then moved up to the light heavy and the cruiserweight divisions and really looked to be on his way with a win over Bert Cooper. But then he moved up another notch to the heavyweight division as the opponent du jour. That's what he became, and he lost 9 straight, making a mark by going the distance with the contenders and basically providing a glorified sparring session for these fighters.
However, he always hangs in there, hangs tough, tries to throw punches.
Bigfoot has made a big name for himself by losing to some of the top heavyweights in the world. He has actually made losing an art form because each loss elevates him to another opponent. It's almost, you ever play double or nothing? You know, Bigfoot keeps playing double or nothing. He figures out that one of these days he's going to win one, and he did, with Witherspoon. And that keeps him going another few years. And quite frankly, he's probably the fighter with the steadiest work in the business.
That's right. The people in boxing who make money are the real good fighters or these road warriors like he is, the circuit fighter. Everett Bigfoot Martin will fight next week somewhere else. If you got an opening for Everett Bigfoot Martin, he'll be there.
But on the list of journeyman opponents, he's on the top of the list.
Right.
He's a grade A opponent.
And I was always a little bit envious of these kinds of fighters, Al. I mean, they could fight without training. I had to train every day. I had to prepare. I had to work myself. I had to have a good work ethic. These fighters just get in. They're not afraid of anybody. Just bring them all on. We'll fight them all tonight.
Yeah, but the thing is, with Martin, he doesn't see it that way.
Well, it shows
That's right. Yeah. He thinks each fight he is the contender.
But still wants to be a top 10 contender or a heavyweight champion.
Join us ringside in Biloxi, Mississippi. Tonight, USA's Tuesday night fight, the season premiere. Former world heavyweight champion Larry Holmes, who continues his career at the age of 43, trying to get past the gatekeeper. Most people in the comeback in the heavyweight division must pass go. They must pass Bigfoot to continue on. Tim Witherspoon was one who did not.
Did not get $200. Did not pass go. Between rounds, they were telling Larry Holmes, they said, we want you to explode in the middle of the round this time. You've done it at the first of the round and at the last of the round. Let's see if you can do it in the middle of the round. And what they're going to do is they're going to give him a signal over there to tell him that is the middle of the round. But I tell you, speaking from experience, I know that Larry Holmes will know when it's the middle of the round long before the people in the corner will know it. You get that 3-minute clock in your head. Veteran of 58 fights, you certainly know where the middle of the round is.
As you can see, the feet of Bigfoot Martin. His nickname is Bigfoot. But his size shoe is only a 9.5.
Well, they call him Bigfoot because in younger days he used to wear great big old slippers. I guess he figured I need to grow into these slippers. That's why he went from a super middleweight up to a heavyweight.
You know, you take a look at these two fighters, and on one hand you have a fighter by the name of Bigfoot, and on the other hand you have a fighter who has often put his big foot in his mouth. So there's a kind of a connection here between these two.
I don't know, these two had words at the weigh-in. They don't like each other. In fact, Martin said he was going to make Holmes pay for what he said. He had a few things to say. In fact, that he would knock Bigfoot on his, well, off his big foot, off his big feet.
You realize if Martin comes up with a big upset, gets himself in position to fight for the heavyweight championship, goes to London to fight Lennox, the matchup will be Martin and Lewis.
Ow.
Final minute of the 6th round. This is scheduled for 10.
Can you hear the steam engine in the background? That's coming from Larry Holmes. He is sucking air around that mouthpiece. He's keeping his jaw nice and tight, but he's really breathing hard. Remember how good first 3 rounds he had, how hard he was punching? He was struggling, he was forcing it. Well, he's paying for it now.
20 seconds left, round number 6.
They wanted a mid-round flurry from him, an explosion in the mid-round. He didn't have the gas to give it.
Final 10 seconds. We will pause for a word from your local cable system. You're watching USA's Tuesday Night Fights. 7th round action. Larry Holmes against Bigfoot Martin. Last week, Larry Holmes divulged the fact that he fought Ray Mercer with a detached retina in his right eye, that it was surgically repaired in February before the Holyfield fight, that he couldn't do anything for 2 months, really had to rush his schedule to fight Holyfield, but would not pass up on the alleged $7 million for the fight. But he fought the Mercer with the detached retina, with blurred vision. And he said because of the fight that Mercer fought, because he came to him, that Holmes really didn't have to use the right eye, just kind of closed it. And he could see where he was, but in the Holyfield fight, he wore contacts. He was just getting used to it. And Holyfield knocked out the contact. And in the fight, Holmes did not jab as much as he wanted to because he really couldn't judge the distance. But trouble focusing, depth perception. Could you imagine? You think he thinks he's lined you up, the fighter, and swings and knocks out the referee. But Larry
We've
Holmes,
seen it before.
yeah, that's
it's
right.
happened before, yes.
So that's just another question. Not even why is he still fighting at the age of 43? Why is he even taking the risk with a surgically repaired detached retina?
Exactly. It's because he likes the thrill of the competition. He's got to have something to do, and he admits it. I must have something to do.
Well, he says, I haven't been hurt. But it's like, you know, you don't put the traffic light up in the intersection until somebody gets hurt. That's his philosophy.
Sugar Ray Leonard had a detached retina, had it reattached.
Oh, many fighters.
Yeah, a lot of fighters. What happens is that eye gets hit with the corner of a glove or with the thumb. When it does, the eyeball turns, and it either stretches or rips that retina. Good right hand by Larry.
Pace slowing down here in the later stages of this fight. Holmes lashing out with a jab.
That's so effective jab. What an important weapon that has been for Larry Holmes, and is for any fighter.
It looked like Larry Holmes would continue fighting in the eventuality of meeting George Foreman, having the two former legends meet in a big money fight. But it seems at this point that Foreman has another agenda with Pierre Costa, Tommy Morrison. Looks like they're over the horizon for George.
Larry says until June he's going to try to get a fight with George Foreman before June. If that doesn't happen, then he says, yes, I'll retire. But we've heard that before.
Bigfoot Martin comes right at Larry Holmes to start this 8th round. He got a tongue lashing in his corner at the end of 7. His corner now feels that Everett Martin has to pull off the spectacular and knock out Larry Holmes to win this fight. That Holmes has just piled up the points in the first 7 rounds. Matter of fact, let's listen in to hear what the Bigfoot Martin heard after the 7th round.
There ain't no tomorrow. You got him out there in front of you right now. So you do to him what you're supposed to do to him tomorrow, tonight. There's no tomorrow, okay? All right, let's get busy.
Well, Tim Goodall leaned over the ropes and told him, you need a knockout to win, Everett. Go out and start throwing some punches. What they don't like is for Everett to be laying on the inside, not swinging.
If Martin does get the knockout, it will be his first knockout since January of 1987. And he took out a Victor Walker in 2 rounds 6 years ago. So that's the odds facing Bigfoot Martin at this point.
You know, and now fighting out of desperation, this is what Larry is waiting for. He's hoping for. He wants to get Everett to take a step in to try to throw those bombs. All he has to do is take that half step back, set, and then unload. Talking now to Everett Martin. You know, he talked about the days that he reigned as the heavyweight champion of the world. Larry Holmes never got quite the respect that I really thought he deserved. Excellent fighter. Unfortunately for Larry, he's showing some charisma now to the crowd, but his problems, I think, have come outside the ring. He's an excellent fighter inside the ropes. Now the crowd, playing to the crowd is Larry.
And these are the chants he has never heard before, at least while he was reigning as a champion. And now it's Holmes responding to the crowd. Holmes doubling up with the right. And the crowd getting excited as you see them jumping out of their seats. Holmes started hearing the chants in the Mercer fight when he was the 4-1 underdog and knocked off the unbeaten Mercer. And then heard the chants again as the underdog against Holyfield. And Larry Holmes really playing to the crowd here in the 8th round. The right hand landing time and again.
Lining and landing. He is
lining the face of Everett Martin.
Bringing that uppercut in. That is so effective against Martin. Martin is leaning over, asking for it.
Possibly the best flurry in the comeback of Larry Holmes to in that round as he heard it from the crowd. Now we get ready. We're going do-si-do right here to start the 9th round. Now, we talked about the last knockout provided by Everett Martin. You take a look at Holmes' record and outside his comeback and going in against easy opponent types, taking out the likes of Tim Anderson and Michael Greer and Jamie Howell. Howell and Anderson going in the first round. To find the last Holmes comeback, you have to go back to 1985 when he stopped David Bay in the 10th round in a championship defense. March of '85. November of '84, he had stopped Bone Crusher Smith in the 12th round. The fight preceding that was the one-round destruction of Marvis Frazier.
And he said that Everett Martin has the style most similar to Marvis Frazier. Said he comes right at me, he tries to bob and weave.
But during his reign, 20 defenses, 15 knockouts for Larry Holmes.
In that first round of this fight, Larry was clocking Everett Martin with those uppercuts. Now talking to the crowd is Larry. He's talking to Ed Schuyler over there, who has not missed a Larry Holmes fight for 42 matches.
And Larry Holmes now spreads his legs, flat-footed, and just poking at Martin. Larry Holmes said, I can't get hurt against Bigfoot Martin. So far, he hasn't. Coming down to 1 minute to go in the 9th round. Holmes is not ranked in the top 10. He's at number 11 in the WBC. And right now, what he's trying to do is, Martin's the perfect opponent. It's a glorified sparring session where he'll get 10 rounds in, get that competition in, and hope eventually that Lennox Lewis gives him a call. And another hefty payday for Larry Holmes. And I think that's his strategy right now.
I think it's a pretty good strategy. All these fighters have to have someone to face. They've got to have someone that they can make some money and fight. And a name like Larry Holmes could command some money for Lennox Lewis.
More for Lewis than for Riddick Bowe.
Sure. Again, the uppercut.
More for Lewis in London.
Yes. Willie Savannah, there is a cut around that left eye.
You got to give him water and stuff.
They're putting adrenaline on it.
Round 10, touch blood.
This is exactly
Round 10, touch blood. Look, you the boss, Big Jack.
Yeah.
You the boss, Big Jack.
The motherfucker taking the punches.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Just use your jab. Feint him.
Keep your hands up.
He reached when you feint him. Put his mouthpiece. Okay, I got him.
Here is a look at some of the action, but watch the elbows on the inside. Bing. Laughing, looking at the referee is Larry Holmes. And in that 9th round, we saw him play a little bit. Talking to the crowd. Realizing that he's got this fight in his back pocket.
Tenth and final round. Larry Holmes doing what he pleases with Everett Bigfoot Martin. And quite frankly, we have seen Everett Martin before giving some of the top heavyweights more trouble than he's been able to give Larry Holmes here tonight. Larry Holmes has been in full control of this fight.
And it came in that opening round. When he was able to connect with those uppercuts, he was able to keep Everett Martin out of the end of his right hand, out of the end of his jab. Where Everett has been so successful with these heavyweights is he gets inside their reach. A good heavyweight with a strong uppercut will cure that because of the way Everett stands.
Everett Martin rattled George Foreman and became the first man to take Foreman the distance in Foreman's comeback. He knocked down Michael Moore for the first time in Moore's career and then took undefeated Moore to the 10 rounds, beat Tim Witherspoon, and in his last fight in September, it was a close fight on the cards going into the 6th, 7th round against Tony Tucker before Tucker won this fight. But for Holmes, relative ease in this fight against Martin. Past the halfway mark of the last round. Al Albert along with the champ, Sean O'Grady. Season premiere, Tuesday Night Fights.
Come on, work, says Larry Holmes.
Both experienced distance fighters.
Last round.
Next week, welterweight championship, Buddy McGirt at Madison Square Garden against Gennaro Leon. Also Kevin Kelly, the #1 featherweight in the world, on the card. Big night ahead next week on Tuesday Night Fights.
Can't wait, New York City. Some of that tape on the left glove coming loose from Larry. As these fighters sweat, that they start hugging more.
Your time. Your time.
This is a good time for Larry to get some instruction.
Go to work, make your hands. Keep them up, baby. Keep them up. Come on.
We're inside the final minute of the fight.
Well, they told Larry 40 seconds. Go ahead and let it all hang out.
And Bigfoot Martin needs a miracle here on the 10th. Larry Holmes on the power card would very much be pitching the shutout. Holmes in that corner, that was his friendly corner against Ray Mercer. That was his office. And bulldozing forward is Everett Bigfoot Martin. Final 10 seconds of the fight. No knockdowns. And that is it. Everett Martin does it again, goes the distance. And as far as Larry Holmes is concerned, he says, if I can't take him out, I want to look good against him. And relatively speaking, Larry Holmes looked good against Everett Bigfoot Martin.
That's the reason he keeps coming back, because he keeps looking good. I mean, the man really knows how to fight. He knows boxing. He knows the sport. Unfortunately, he's up there in age. Okay. You know, by the time, unfortunately, in your career, sometimes by the time you get to learn, sometimes you're too old.
All right, we'll be back for the decision, and we'll have a word with the winner of this fight on USA's Tuesday Night Fights. And we're ready for the decision. Let's go to Mark Vito.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. Judge Martin Casino scores it 99-92. Judge Elmo Adolph scores it 99-91. Judge Freddie Steinwan scores it 190, all to the winner and former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes.
He is now 55-4. The last judge agreeing with us. Holmes pitching the shutout, and that for Bigfoot probably the toughest thing he had to do tonight in lifting up the 238-pound Larry Holmes. So Larry Holmes is the winner, and for the third straight fight in his comeback, heard the fans chanting his name. And we'll be talking with Larry Holmes shortly, but right now it's time for the Power Punch of the night, brought to you by Budweiser, the king of... Welcome back to the Mississippi Coast Coliseum in Biloxi, Mississippi. Everett Bigfoot Martin experiencing the Biloxi Blues at the hands of Larry Holmes, who goes to 55-4. And Larry, that's 12 rounds with Mercer, 12 rounds with Holyfield, distance 10 rounds with Martin. You're going to be getting yourself in pretty good shape pretty soon.
That's what it really is all about, you know, working my way into that position so I can get that other shot. You know, a lot of guys out there don't really want to fight me. Even though I've been off since June, haven't really been training. I went back in, had some cosmetic surgery done on my eye again so that I could focus better. I went in the ring today. without a contact. And I want to say hi to my doctor, Elzamini, the guy who did the surgery, Dr. Cochran. Also, I want to say hi to him. And also, while I'm talking, I'd like to say hi to my daughter, Belinda, and my daughter that stay home, Misty, and my grandkids.
Like to say hi to Sean.
Can I say hi to you for a minute?
My main man, Sean O'Grady.
You look great tonight, but it looked as though you were struggling there in those early rounds. Those first several rounds, were you trying to